Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to your legal guide by Emirates Advocates and Legal Consultants. Today, we are exploring a topic that impacts many check bounced cases in the UAE. We frequently receive inquiries from companies, individuals, and even international businesses working with UAE firms. Since this issue is so common, we thought it would be beneficial to have a discussion about it. So, joining with us today, Ms. Defika, who has gathered a list of frequently asked questions regarding check bounce cases here. Let's hear what she has to say and provide some insights. Thank you, Ms. Defika, for being here today. What question do you have for us?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. So, can you give a brief introduction about check bounce under UAE law?
Ms. Defika, thank you very much for your question. And of course, it would be my pleasure to give a small, brief introduction about the check bounce under UAE law. But first of all, we'd like to clarify that the answers are suggested by one of our experienced lawyers. As we normally issue or receive checks during our contractual and commercial transactions, as you know, and the payee failed to clear it, now we are facing a check bounced or a returned check matter. And this issue is governed by the Federal Decree Law number 50/2022, which regulates the governing commercial transactions, known also as the UAE Transaction Law.
All right. What are the common reasons for a check to bounce? And what circumstances lead to a check being considered bounced?
Thank you, Ms. Devika, for raising this question because it's really important to explain, and please listen to me carefully. It is essential to understand why a check bounces, as the law specifies certain conditions that define when a check is considered dishonored. And this understanding will help also what type of a case we could file. In fact, there are so many reasons for that. Maybe there is no sufficient balance in the account. Maybe it's frozen or even closed. The signature mismatching is also an important and very common reason. The check might be damaged or there is an amount difference in words and numbers. And also, be careful of overwriting on checks and pay attention to the dates to be correct and valid. So, dear listeners, hope clarifying these points will be helpful so you could pay attention to these details while you are issuing or receiving a check.
Thank you so much for the clarification. But I do have another question to add.
Of course, Ms. Devika, you are free to ask me any questions because also this will help our listeners to take the advantage of these questions.
Okay, so that's so nice of you. So, what steps should an individual take if she or he receives a bounced check?
Ms. Devika, this is a good question to guide our listeners how to start taking action. In case, God forbid, someone faced a check bounced matter, he or she should have the check and the letter received from the bank, which clarifies the reasons for the check being bounced. It would be perfect, actually, if he or she knows the address, the phone number, and the email ID of the person who issued the check. Otherwise, there is no worry about that because it's super easy for the lawyers to get the required information.
That totally makes sense. So, this will be my last question for you today, and I hope with this, our listeners would be able to get some clarity about the check bounce cases or issues.
Ms. Devika, you are free to ask as many questions as you want. And yes, I agree with you, hoping this information will support our listeners.
All right, so here is my last question for you. Are there options for settling a bounce check case outside of court?
Yes, definitely. The lawyers could settle the matter between both parties as per their agreements and preferences.
Thank you so much for clarifying these questions. Well, that was a great session. I much appreciate your time and response. Devika this side signing off for the time being.
Thank you, Ms. Devika, for your time, and the questions you asked were very fruitful. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that everyone deserves to receive every penny that is rightfully theirs. And we hope this discussion sheds light on the challenges many faces and provides support to those navigating similar situations. Dear listeners, if you have any legal topic you would like us to discuss, feel free to leave your comment below and we will cover them in future episodes. If you need personalized advice on your case, do not hesitate to contact us, and our contact details are mentioned in the description. Thank you very much for listening today, and we'll meet you in the next episode.